Welcome to the Wargame Red Dragon Microdeck Tournament in the summer of 2023 for the Red Star Vanguard Gaming Discord server. With me today is my co-host Trout, and we'll be covering this match between the team of Very Hard AI against Combat Wombats. So Trout, would you want to kick the discussion off this evening?
Sure. Combat Wombats, pretty cool team. It's a Marine Machine playing Yugo support, California playing Soviet armored, and U-boat playing a China mech deck. California and Marine are longtime server members who've played quite a bit with us in the micro format. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that U-boat is a newer player to Wargame.
Yeah. U-boat's level 6.
Okay, cool.
At least at the time of speaking right now.
Very Hard AI is a team that is kind of what do you call it? They are from the War Game Boot Camp server.
Mhm.
Very experienced players, very good at the game. And Balanced is playing South Africa Moto, Anko is playing a Scandinavian mech, and Orangina is playing a German armored. So we have a Blue 4 versus Red 4 game, which is always fun, a little bit of different assets, and a little bit of a different play style there. Um, Beyond that, we're on Back Ditch which is cool. A lot of the time, micro marine decks are somewhat favored because if you have a marine deck, it's a coin flip whether or not the marine deck is pulled. So we don't always see this deck played. So it's really fun when you get to watch maps on it,
Oh yeah.
matches on it.
Oh, absolutely. And with this map, I've always feel like this map could have always been naval, but it just never made it so. At least by the devs. So it's always like this map that it should have been a sort of it should have been a sort of marine map, or at least a very good high viability towards it, but just never really came through. So, so yeah.
If the map had been just a little bit bigger, you can see the spot exactly like you say, right between Lima and Alpha, where you'd have some pretty good marine play and pretty good naval play.
Oh, absolutely. It would have been nice if they would have kind of scrapped out Alpha Lima and then put the water spawns in nearby or something. That would have been kind of cool. But all right. So yeah, we've kind of got some armor here from California, a couple of T-64s, nothing too fancy, and a lot of mechanized assets from U-boat. Uh, and then over by Hotel here, we have a little more of the same. We've got some OT Tab 71s from Marine, and I believe Marine's using support here, so chances are these are going to be like some burst capacitors or something that are going to be popping out, I believe. And then we've got Kale with a couple of BMP 1Ds. Now, I don't usually see this pulled too often, but the AGS-17 is a fun little grenade launcher on this thing, so maybe we'll see some good use out of it. Besides that, I think that's really about it worth mention. There is two Rui Cats and some Oryx over here. So once these kind of start taking off, these Rui Valks are going to be kind of a high priority threat because they've got eight anti-tank missiles and four Mistrals. Taking those out with planes or long range anti-air is going to be ideal, which would be something that like the Prakas here are going to be kind of set up for. Mind you that they only have two missiles, so missing with one of them is really going to hurt. But it still might be a good way to fend them off. We'll see.
I will mention Prakas with those supply trucks is a little bit of a interesting choice. They definitely are not a bad unit. They do not sustain very well. So we'll see what goes on with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The little Reebok ball that you pointed out with the infantry, it'll be interesting to see where that goes, as that's a pretty solid little landing force. So I'm excited to see where that lands too.
Yeah, precisely. I could probably could head over towards Charlie or Alpha. Um, Either or would be sort of like a solid placement. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Do you have any other comments you want to mention before we start watching?
Um, Not too really. Let's go.
All right, on your count.
All right, three, two, one, play. Oh, yeah, slow down that timer. There we go. All right, so we got an exchange happening right over here by Gulp. Looks like an Oryx has been countering a Mi-24D. an automatic and a Flak Panzer Gepard engage that Mi-24D and bring it down. And that is the Mi-24D taken out right off the bat. Alright, we've got a sort of helicopter flight going into Alpha, and a command helicopter spotting all this. And so Marine starts pulling out anti-air with Pratka Tunguska M, and as they sort of seem to be scrambling to get an air defense up and going.
Yeah, that's a really, really quick landing. Very, very aggressive attack with the Revox and the Oryxes. Pretty just nothing there to stop it right off the bat, and definitely unexpected at this point in the game, I think.
And we're seeing some sort of maneuver from U-boat over here. It's sort of like a stalling maneuver. It seems like they're trying to take up this position over here by between Echo Charlie, but didn't really spread out their forces. Maybe they were anticipating a bigger battle over here that didn't really occur. We see a bunch of units pouring in out of India, rushing down south towards Hotel. All the forces that they had over here seem to have been completely wiped out. Yep. So you see Panzer Grenadier, Martyr 2s.
Very, very aggressive early play, and looking at the map, something I wouldn't normally think of. That normally I'm gonna set up a line and fight, but the distance between India and Hotel is quite short and easily contestable. And Very Hard AI has done an excellent job creating a nice, solid armor force, armor mechanized mixed force to push in and really, really aggressively push Hotel. It's a very difficult place to defend now that the density of units in Hotel has really been ground down.
We see some.
Looking kind of at center.
Oh, go ahead.
Looking kind of at Delta, interesting, just very light defense. So just a couple, Milans, a couple Deccan's Grip, which is not the most common thing to see. Just placed down to make sure that those bridgeheads are secured. So from Very Hard AI, a very minimal defense that's very effective on the bridgeheads, kind of by Delta.
Oh yeah. This will be interesting. We see a Ruicat firing on a T-64B, but without proper recon. They take a moment to try and spot it, but do and pop it. Whereas we see a Milan 2 firing a missile at the T-64B, knocking one out. Nabbing a side shot, I believe. Duringstrup getting another RPG hit, supported by the Milan 2. And Duringstrup taken out with 2 RPG hits.
Now, I do want to point out, we are at a +5 at literally 5 minutes into the match, which is a very, very quick, very, very, very aggressive push. That's a lot of points going into commands, but it's also a lot of points. So, very effective use of commands and very aggressive early deployment of command.
It might be a little desynced.
We are a little bit desynced, yes.
Alright. Let's see. Yeah, so they're flying in a command over to Alpha now. Kind of moving a little bit faster speed here. Alright.
Yeah, let me know when they're got the command down in Alpha there. And right now, yeah, I do think accidentally I'm at 1933.
Alright. Alright, they just dropped it down. So we see some BMD 1Ps engaging Martyr 2s. Most Shoki 90 are trying to move in to engage that. A couple of PTZ 89s over here trying to hold up the line. They'll probably come in really handy against these STRV 121s, but we'll see. That smoke looks like it might cause a problem though, especially if the infantry can just push through it. We see some Panzer Grenadier being kind of cheeky, trying to push their way to Charlie on foot. And they're just kind of suffering for it. That's really unfortunate to see. But it looks like the Buffaloes 85 have gotten their foothold over here to Alpha and are trying to fire off a missile on the uh, command helicopter back here in Bravo, which is an interesting choice for your spawn, but certainly a choice indeed. So you have a Tuna T-72Ms pushing in on these Buffaloes as they start pulling back. We've got a lot of chaos happening over here in Hotel. A tornado ECR looking to try to nab out some radar assets. But I don't believe there is much from... there is much radar assets from combat wombats to really make it worth. So...
I just wanted to check with you as well. Just in terms of a lot of units being pushed in a lot of places. Over in Foxtrot right now, looks like there's some Stormers and an M113A1G moving in. So
yeah, we got some Stormers that are pushing in over by Foxtrot, and they are kind of getting wiped out. Completely surrounded by Brisky Pass and OT tabs.
I will say, in terms of contesting commands and contesting, just trying to see if there's any little holes in the defensive, it's using assets that might otherwise be suboptimal to really push in and scout out to see what's there.
And sometimes that's all you need to do.
Play very hard AI.
Oh yeah. We got a Ruivel trying to push its way around Hotel. Looks like they're just really trying to spot that command, but they're not having too much luck just yet. Leopard, Martyr 2s, Leopard 2A1, and CRVs are kind of pushing it around. Automatics being engaged by BMP 1Ds with the grenade launcher, and the grenade launchers take it out. So we got some CV 9030Ms coming up by a Hotel.
And just to point out, nice use by Anko with the beacons, very aggressively kind of guessing where the command is, and causing a little bit of a... oh, it's actually not a command loss. They have effectively brought a command up.
Tunguska just shot down a Ruivel.
Yeah.
Oh, and we are starting to see some shots come in from the beacon just south of Hotel, trying to hit some of the areas where, as you were saying, yeah. And the command is now being countercapped by the Commandant in Hotel on the north side.
Yeah. When I originally saw this, because I've actually watched this match a couple times now, I thought it was a successful command snipe, but extremely aggressive helicopter command drop, and just a good play in terms of very hard AI.
All right. Meanwhile, back on the other side, not too much else is happening, but that +2 and not capping down Sheridan might be hurting Combat Wombats pretty badly now, because they've got a +8 lead that Variety has, and points are starting to stack up pretty fast. Now we're sitting at a +10.
Yes. 10 minutes into the match at a +10, 600 to 0. That is a very, 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 very quick and dominant lead in a match. I don't think in the tournament to this point we've ever seen a match quite like this with such a quick and decisive score and balance.
Indeed. This is definitely one of the more professed moments of the 15-minute challenge, you could say, more or less. About, getting a solid force, setting up barely minimal defenses along the least likely anticipated routes, pushing a large force successfully to the objective that you state during the planning phase, get there, and just achieve everything you set out for.
Take a look over at Hotel.
Yep, looks like they're starting to spawn in stuff now. Just saw Ruicat 105 come in and take out what I believe was an anti-air unit.
So very, very aggressive. That leaving the commandant back on hotel, and then very aggressively pushing for the command to allow for, once that command is wiped, just an instant flip and an instant use of that spawn route to bring more units in.
Exactly, yeah. That's definitely one of the things you want to do when you try pushing an aggressive attack like that. Is roll your command up with you, get to the enemy spawn, counter cap them, prevent them from getting any reinforcements, and then if you can eliminate the enemy command, start calling in additional reinforcements. It is a solid strategy. Orangino now doing patrol with F4F Peace Prime, but unfortunately not finding many targets. But it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. A lot of effort is being exhausted into Alpha, and there isn't a lot of fast units to really roll up and go in and deal with all that.
At this point, there really isn't enough time. People trying to figure out where things are happening, where stuff is needed, and in terms of initiative and in terms of response, very hard AI. They essentially choose where they want to fight. They choose what they want to fight, and whatever's going against them is being intercepted.
Yep, and that is
in
game.
transit en route.
Yep, and that is game.
Yeah.
12 minutes and 52 seconds. Well done to Very Hard AI for completing the 15-minute challenge.
So I do want to say, for California, with the amount of assets being pushed, very, very, very good attempt to hold them back and to keep fighting that. It's one of those things where you're up against a mechanized and an armored player, and you've got some help from your team, but it's mostly your assets being pushed into there. And so it's a hard fight. It's not an easy spot to be. And I feel for U-Boat, very, very difficult match in terms of your units are deployed. You've got to try to load them up and move them, but realistically, the victory is within 12 minutes. So how effectively are you going to be able to redeploy infantry in 12 minutes? Something that would be very, very difficult to do.
There's definitely something
with the point bleed,
and there's definitely something
very hard to recover from.
Yeah, precisely. There's definitely something to say for I guess U-Boat to kind of practice up doing a little more push to contact. He had a lot of units at the beginning of the game that kind of began off sort of bunkering down on the side of the river, expecting more of an offensive from the other team, but without really enough recon or probing of the enemy forces, he never really got beyond that point, which is unfortunate.
I will say, very good example of combined arms, sort of typical American disorient and just overrun enemy positions. That's essentially what Very Hard AI did. Also, very good recognition of what's important on the map. And they looked at the map and said, "There's a 2-point over there, and there's a 2-point over there, and the middle of the map is not that important to us." And they went to what was important to win the match, and they brought out the assets early that were needed to win the match. They brought out commands, and they brought out a very, very solid core of mechanized and armored, and they brought out the required helicopters to do an early aggressive landing in an unexpected place that really caught the combat wombats off balance and made it very, very hard. When I originally watched this match, I think it was 1 minute and 35 seconds. I looked at it and it said the match is over. It was that decisive and that aggressive that it was well coordinated, well organized, and they knew exactly what they were doing on Very Hard AI's side, and very effectively executed.
Indeed. Very efficient gameplay. All right, I think that's about it. Is there any other commentaries?
At some point, I am very much looking forward to playing against balanced Anko and Orangina. I'm looking forward to seeing, trying some different assets and trying some different gameplay styles to see what counters them. I definitely think it's there, but it's something that needs to be worked on, and practiced, and at some point I expect to see them lose, but it won't be right away, and it may not be in this tournament.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next match.
All right.